So I guess more on a positive note, Firefox had a couple of updates. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
So one's an update, and one is sort of a policy stance they're going to take.
Weird policy, in my opinion.
It's interesting. We'll get to that one in a second, because I think we'll have a lot more to say about it. The first one is that they are revoking the CA certificate for, it's a long name, e-Gueven electronic bilgi guvenligi.
Wow, the accent down.
I don't even know if that's the right accent. I apologize if it's not. But basically, the organization who acts as this certificate authority is being taken out of Firefox. Anything that they've signed is no longer going to be trusted. And this is because they didn't properly keep up with the audits that are expected. When you're a CA, you're supposed to be able to vouch for everything that you do, every certificate that you sign, and you're under sort of an onus to perform certain audits on yourself and prove that you're doing things properly. And apparently they hadn't been doing this properly since 2013. So they're being taken out, which in my opinion is the proper way of doing things. I mean, if you're not going to hold someone to the standards that are required to make sure that they're doing things properly that impact millions of your users, you're within your rights to do that. I think somebody did this recently with CNNIC as well. So it's becoming more of a thing to do.
So is there any notion, any indication of how many might be affected by this?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's in the article itself. I'm sure there are people who are impacted for sure. Yeah. They're going to start seeing little red error messages in their Firefox when they notice this.
Yeah, I guess it's little red error messages isn't so bad. But that's one of the things that is so challenging in any kind of changes. That is, what are the implications of taking a service out of service or changing the way features operate? I think that's one of the things that it has basically been a challenge for organizations that have been around for a long time, established a customer base, an expectation of availability, those types of things, and then making a shift to be more innovative or changing things. I think I'm kind of drifting off the main point, but it's a case where just the simple, let's just pull them out, and in this case, yes, it's going to, cause some flags, and so perhaps people are going to be more sensitive to the issues associated with the fact that they haven't been following the audit. But by the same token, it could also even have a derogatory impact. That is, oh, well, I always get that flag, So.
Right.
Yeah.
People might be more lax.
Right.
It's true.
I'm sure a lot of deliberation takes place around making these decisions, but it's not as simple as one might think in the potential impact. And
so when you were saying you were drifting off a bit, I think it's actually still ties in, because the next thing that was announced on the Mozilla blog was that they intend to start not supporting certain features for sites which are not using HTTPS.
Okay.
So that's a huge amount of the internet.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of things that go along with actually setting up HTTPS properly on a site. You got to get a certificate. You've got to do some configuration work. From a trusted signer. Now, there's a good
one that's going to stay trusted.
Right.
Well, this is true. Don't go for e-Gueven anymore. But there's the blog post is good. But there's a follow-up FAQ, which I think is maybe even better because it answers all the obvious questions. Things like, so wait, do I have to go out and buy myself a certificate now? There's a couple CAs that actually will give you a free cert, and there's the Let's Encrypt initiative, which is supposed to do the same idea, sort of thing, where you basically get this for free, just so that everybody has the ability to encrypt. There's other questions in there, things like, when is this going to happen? It's not going to be happening immediately. It's going to take some time for this to happen. There are still devices out there. For example, if you've got a home router and it's a little out of date and all it has is an HTTP configuration front end, think of a million embedded devices that don't do HTTPS on your local network because they never thought they had to. Firefox might not support those in the future, so there's got to be a path forward for that. There's a lot of really good points made in that fact, and I think some of the answers are, we're not sure yet. Right. We know we'd like to do this because we think it's better for the health of the internet that everyone has the ability to encrypt, but there's still a lot of questions as to how exactly it's all going to come together.
Yeah. It gets into that there is no real police force for the internet, and so the question becomes, should individual contributors try to do policing? Is it something that should Firefox be trying to enforce the policy or just accommodating a policy?
Interesting.
It's just a question. I don't know. Right. I don't know the answer.
I don't know. This seems really, there's something about this that bugs me in that if you're going to say, basically, we're trying to make HTTP kind of go away, and we want to have the entire world move to HTTPS for everything, that means, like you said, everybody has to get trusted certificates. You look inside certain companies, large companies, they probably have lots of internal systems that
use self-signed?
Yeah, use self-signed certificates. Now, it doesn't mean you can't start your own certificate authority and deploy that into the browsers within your company for your own company, like we do that. But a lot of companies probably don't. So that's going to break a lot of things or force them to do that kind of thing. The other thing that bugs me more about this is that from an analysis standpoint, I'm a security analyst, and all the traffic is encrypted. It makes my job a lot more difficult. So depending on what systems you have, proxy logs, if it's just a straight proxy, you're not really going to know. You'll know where they're going to, but not what they're doing there. And you won't really know the URL path that they're trying to reach even at that site when it's encrypted, unless you do some other, more advanced proxies that kind of do a man-in-the-middle kind of self-signed certificate back handshake thing, which is there are technologies to do that. I don't think that's well deployed, universally there. So from an analytical standpoint, it's going to make things more difficult.
It makes it more difficult, but the good news for you, John, as an analyst, the malware doesn't have to follow the rules.
True.
And it probably won't.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So maybe the only thing we'll see is malware using HTTP, and everybody else legit. I don't think that's going to happen.
But don't worry, because
I don't think that's going to happen.
the phishing pages will be using HTTPS because they'll have to.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be. I'm not quite sure what to make about this just yet, but I guess we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah, we will see.